Okay, in accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and will be uploaded into the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel. The following information also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer using a browser, go to www.zoom.com and click join. When prompted, please enter meeting ID 792-737-0353. From a telephone, dial toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter webinar ID 792-737-0353. If you are not registered with Zoom, you'll be asked for your name and email address. Note, no participant IDs needed, just press pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use raise hand when feature to request to speak. The agenda, the agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of the discussions. Not all items listed in fact may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent of the meeting law. With that, I will take a roll call. Chris?
Here, I was trying to find my mute. Unmute.
There you go. Pat?
Here.
Thank you. And Anna here. We also have with us Paul Visconti, who's the Town of Lunenburg Facilities Director. All right. And with that, the meeting is open. We quickly asking, Chris, did you and Pat have time to read the minutes? They're on the folder?
I did read through the minutes.
September 9th.
Yeah, I had read through them.
Okay, great. Can I get I also read through them. Can I get maybe a motion to approve the meeting? The minutes?
Go ahead, Pat.
Right, so there's paperwork.
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes for the September meeting.
And I'll second that.
Okay, and let's do a vote. Chris?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
An aye for myself. Okay, this is good. All right, so next item on the agenda is Facilities Director update. Paul, welcome to our meeting. What do you got for us?
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Gotcha.
How you doing? I'm really feeling under the weather, so don't mind my my voice. Excuse me for 1 second. All right, so we'll just take it from the top, no particular order. The bid survey came back from Marshall Park. Dillerson Roy has been awarded the bid. He's going to be doing the work over there, which is great. They're a nice local company. Did have 7 agencies come to view the site, only 2 bids. Dillerson Roy was far and away the least expensive for the bid. I haven't been able to confirm the amount because Julie's been out and I haven't been able to get with her, and I missed my meeting today with Heather due to feeling under the weather. So I can't give you the exact amount. I believe it came in under $20,000. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
We got 5 resumes for the rec director position. 4 people responded that they would like to be interviewed. Conducted 2 interviews yesterday. And then Julie's been out, so I don't know when we're going to be able to finish up the interviews, but we'll keep you posted on that. Candidates yesterday were very good. They seemed like they could bring a lot to the table. Beach House bid process is going to go back out for January. As you know, it comes out of the operational budget. It's not coming out of the capital budget. It's not forecasted for capital. So I reworked the bid. It's going out for invitation for bid by January to start in spring. What I mean by spring is when the weather breaks. That's delineated in the contract that will be posted on open bids. MMA and town hall and combis. $35,000 is the scope of the bid. I don't think the job's worth any more than that. It's essentially less than a week's worth of work. There's really nothing but lumber. Meaning there's no electrical, there's no plumbing. So hopefully we can get it done. Be good. McNally Park abatement's complete. Stairs have been removed. I'm gonna move ahead with demolition of the building as long as, Anna, did you ever get clarification from the McNally family?
I did talk with them, a clarification, what particular point. There were a
That
few
they
points.
know about it, that they know about it before we go ahead and all that?
Yes, I did speak with them, and I got an email back, and Dan Lincoln, who's the person who deal with it the most, he asked if we can save the sign that's in front of the building. I forwarded you an email about that. He said if possible, they would love to save that sign. If not, he understands. But they appreciated the fact that we gave them the heads up and that they know we're working to try to upgrade the field.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely take that into consideration, speak with the contractor, okay?
Thank
I'll
you.
let you know before, so you have an answer one way or another.
Perfect.
Whalen Marshall Park, pond and weed control. So Whalen Beach and Marshall Pond, two separate things, but a company called Solitude Lake Management, they've come out already. They've done a water test as of 10/25. They gave some preliminary numbers so we could try to get this in the capital budget. When I originally put the capital budget together, for your knowledge, it was a kind of a large process because there's so many projects for the next 1 to 10 years, which we were asked to do by the town manager. I had put it on for this year for a scope of around $200,000, meaning both projects. When I had Solitude come out, they weren't able to give me I don't want to use a word estimate, but a temporary cost projection, right? They didn't want to lock themselves into what a cost would be to do a couple different types of treatments. To make a long story short, because my voice is killing me, the cost to do the beach is going to be $30,000 approximately. Could be more, could be less. And that's not just one part of the process. It's a several stage process. Hydro raking, and then it's going to have a water treatment plan after the hydro raking. So what happened is 30,000 is going to be budgeted for this year's capital plan. And then moving forward, we'll put money in 2025 to do Marshall Pond. And I think that'll give us a couple things that we can see how they do at the beach, see how that works for us, and see what the treatment plan is. And then also with the help of the chairperson, Anna, I did bring it to Heather's attention to see if we could get that all in for this budget. When we discussed it, she said there really wasn't that much money there. We're kind of over the budget already, depending where we fall when it gets approved. And like we had talked about, I think that it'd be good to see what they can actually do. I'd be curious to see how this raking works out and how the treatment works out before we get into something so much larger scale. Considering, I mean, I don't really know anything about pond control or lake control, but they did have a lot of good points with the killing of the foliage on the bottom, and then a rake, the hydro raking does a different way, and it can shrink. You know, if you don't treat, if you do one and not the other, it basically shrinks the water level in the pond because the dead debris on the bottom gets taller and taller. That's why you need the chemical treatment to eat away. They're going to do a pretty elaborate presentation. I'm pretty sure I should have that for the next meeting. They did that test yesterday. Solitude Lake Management, and they already do work up at Hickory Hill. So they're familiar with the town and things that we do on the concerns. I had New England Recreation out to look at the basketball court, striping it, and some other recreational needs at the parks. I did get some quotes back. I'm not ready to present those right now. I haven't had a chance really to speak to the salesperson about it, other than I received the PDFs today, and I really didn't work a full day today. But I should have some information back for you for that for the next meeting. And it was interesting to see about some of the things that they can provide for us. I think he'll be a good resource. He is an MHEC certified vendor. So whatever he gives us for costs are already flatlined by the state, meaning there can't be any better pricing out there. So it really expedites the process for doing things. You don't have to worry about putting it out for bid or capital or what fund it's coming out of. It really streamlines things. And I've used him a lot in the past, and he's a very reputable guy. I'll try to be brief with this one. This isn't a brief topic, but I'm going to try to make it brief. Excuse me. Landscaping. Not very happy with our landscaper. Had several conversations with him. Met him several times. When I say several, over 2. I asked for some things that he hasn't provided me yet. So I gave him a formal letter to put him on notice for an action plan to remedy some of the things that I want remedied. Needless to say, I've discussed this already with Heather. I don't know that if this continues, probably he will not be getting the bid next year. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and authorize some additional landscaping work to be done at Veterans Park and some other things that need to be done around the town, independent of parks, through a separate landscaper. I'm just waiting on a quote from her. I did meet with her this morning. She was nice enough to come out and walk around with me. So if I get any numbers on that back, it'll be well in advance of the next meeting, and I'll let the chairperson know. She can share that, or I can update the spreadsheet. Last, I've been having conversations and Zoom calls with Catherine Ostenheimer from WOLA with the estimated funding timeline. I think it was a great help getting that funding estimate cost funding for the engineering phase for Marshall Park project. And she's been nice enough to help us with the schematic phase. I asked some questions. She doesn't think that there might be a need for any additional schematic phases, but she's going to work on that for our next conversation. And I'm also waiting on her cost estimator to get back in touch with me so that she can come out, and we're going to approve the payment for the updated cost estimate for the engineering phases so that we can try to be as accurate as we can be. That should be between $2,000 and $3,000. So the town manager is aware of that, making you aware of that. It'll come out of the Parks Fund, but I think it's money well spent. And Catherine agrees. It'll really help hammer things down for, for the next phase. That's all I have.
Thank you, Paul. Do we have any questions for Paul?
No, I appreciate that, Paul. Rest your voice, drink some honey tea, maybe a hot toddy. No, it's very
Yeah.
helpful. It's very, very
I
informative.
second
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, yes, Paul, I
Want to
do
thank
appreciate-
Anna for all her help with everything too, and the committee.
save your voice for that. We don't need you to do that. You sound too much in pain to say thank you. Yeah, so Paul, I just want to say thank you for all the work you've been doing. And you definitely hit the ground running, and you have done so much for us already. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry you're not feeling well, and whatever you need, let us know. And the last thing you didn't touch, I know you're probably going to be doing a presentation for capital plan. And I know there are some items that are parks related. If you need help presenting those or presenting the case for them, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to help with whatever you need.
I appreciate it. I did put a few things on for parks for capital plan. I try to be aggressive with the pricing so we'd have more than enough money to do the things that we need. And I probably will reach out for some assistance. I was able to get a lot of vendors out to actually give me some hard pricing. And when I say hard pricing, written quotes. So it's really just not shooting from the hip and pulling numbers from the sky. I don't think that's a good way for us to go. I'd rather, get enough money so we can get good vendors to come out to do good work, and it'll be done correctly. So I will reach out, use you as a resource. I appreciate the offer. Thank you
No
for the
problem.
kind words.
Yeah. All right. So I don't have any other questions for Paul. I wish we can log off to the meeting and go rest. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. I'll see you next month. Hopefully we'll have a rec director then. If I make any progress with Julie on the interviews, I'll definitely keep you posted as was, as we discussed, okay?
All right, sounds
Thanks,
great.
Paul.
Rest well, Paul. Thank
Bye.
you. All right.
Anna, do you have the link? Can you share the link? Just later. I was trying to
For-
find the folder we created or the link we created to kind of
Yeah.
provide updates on. I thought I have it somewhere and I just can't find it. So I
The
don't need it now, just later.
No, the
It's fine.
folder for the meeting?
No, not the meeting folder, like he was saying, he'll update the form, like the form we set up to
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
add
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
I have that somewhere and I cannot find where
Yes, I'll send that,
So
I'll
later,
send it
it's
as an
fine, doesn't matter.
email so that you can make
Perfect.
notes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And-
If he's adding stuff to that, that's helpful. I want to make sure I have that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it today and most of the things has had a lot of progress. I mean, things that.
That was super informative. That was great. I mean, it's more progress in a month than we'd seen previously on anything. So
Right, and and what doesn't have progress is like an actual progress is Veterans Park. Because he
We're having
can't
landscape
get the
issues.
guy there, yeah.
right, yeah,
But
having landscape issues.
he's moving forward with getting a different landscaper. So I'll send that link once the meeting.
Speaking
is
of veterans,
over.
I know the scouts were talking about the benches and stuff. I had sent an email to my contact that I know that's involved with a troop in town, Troop 1728,
Good
and
memory.
the Scoutmaster. And so there was going to be a topic of discussion at their meetings and stuff. And it's a spring. I mean, it would be a spring project anyway, as far as staining and things like that would go. But it's in discussion with them to see if there's a scouts that need service hours and that kind of stuff to take
Okay,
that
and
up.
that actually, so our next item is the chair update, and I'll start with that. One thing that Paul reached out to me and asked for assistance was I don't know if you recall, Chris, but there were two benches there that were not Scouts bench. They had a memorial on them, and the family. So there are many benches that were donated by Boy Scouts, and then there are two benches at least that were donated by a family in memory of someone's mother and grandfather. And that gentleman who made that donation actually reached out to the town offering to make a donation towards the repair of the benches, of those two benches.
Okay.
And he would like to maybe replace the wood with some of the new material that they have that's permanent. And just
Oh,
have the plaques there on those benches attached to the new thing. So
Okay.
let's see where the Scouts land with that, and if they are willing to include those other two benches that were not the ones that they donated. Perhaps we can make it as one large project and they can still do the work. I don't know,
On the
but keep
sign.
that in mind. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. Cool.
we have someone, his name is Mike St. Germain, who is willing to donate, make a financial donation towards repair of the two benches. One was named after his mom, in honor of his mom, Elizabeth Salisbury. She was a resident in town who was murdered in 1995, and his grandfather, who was a veteran. And he said the benches are important to his family and they tend to come up. He grew up in Lunenburg. He went to Lunenburg High. And he comes up to Lunenburg and he likes visiting Veterans Park and honoring his family. So yeah, so keep me updated on that, Chris. Maybe we can have
Will do.
okay. The other updates that I have, I did reach out to Adam Burney about Lufa Farms. As we spoke last meeting, I did reach out to the select board and the planning board about trying to get us access to Lufa Farm. Adam Burney was going to reach out to them to see if he could get conversation going. And he has not heard back from them. I guess the summer, they're from Canada, is kind of a very quiet time. And he was expecting to have more movements during the fall. I know in late October, but the town hasn't heard anything else about it. So that's still ongoing. Then Lincoln, I've been talking with Ben because I did want to reach out to them to let them know that the building was going to be demolished, but we do have plans for doing trying to figure out what improvements we need to do at McNally Park. I wanted them to know that we are demolishing a building, but we are trying to do other things for the park, and they're pleased to hear those news. And he had mentioned that he wanted to replace the sign that's there, and that's probably going to be happening around Thanksgiving. And once that happens, he will let us know, because I think we need to officially accept that sign. As Paul mentioned, there were some capital plan projects. The engineering, Marshall Engineering is one of them. The weeds at Town Beach is another one, and I think there was another one. But Paul is making great progress with all the capital requests that we have had, and I'm very happy about it. I just had the capital plan projects, my list. The last update that I have is Patrick Flaherty, who is a coach at LISA. He has children that play soccer. They're between 3rd and 5th grade. Do you know him?
I don't know him, no.
Okay, so he asked if we could arrange to have for him to run a winter soccer program within the town. So I called him and I explained to him the options that how we could work with him, and would be him coming through LISA, or him coming as an independent person, which he would then need to have insurance, or if we try to do a program with us as a parks. And when he weighed in all the options, he said, well, can we try to pursue this as a parks program? So the main thing about being a park program is that it needs to be a public event. So it's public registration, is not just he comes with the set kids.
Sure, yeah.
And he was okay with that. It would be the details are, it would happen for about 6 weeks, starting in the beginning of January. It'll be between grades 3rd and 5th grade. It'll be a maximum of 20 kids. And all of that has been set. I already talked with Steve Passaretti. He's the new Steve something. He's the new
Facilities guy, right?
right. He's the new facilities guy. He has reserved the TCP gym for us for this event. The next step that we have to have is we got to have a meeting with Patrick and Paul at the gym, because the gym technically, as far as I know, is not really suited for indoor soccer. So we need to make plans about what kind of ball he's going to use, what kind of activities he's going to have. Because if it's just a skills and so forth, Patrick was open to have that discussion. So we'll probably happen, that will probably happen next week. Once we have crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's, Paul has given me access to my rack. I'll put that up on my rack and I'll advertise it around town like I have. But I'm imagining most of the kids that will come through Patrick.
I think they've done, not at TCP, but I think they've done it at Turkey Hill. They've done like soccer clinics through LISA, indoor, like little clinics with a ball. Like, yeah, you couldn't play it. You couldn't really play a game there, but foot skills and things like that should be suitable. I would suspect. I know at one point there was another soccer parent that asked me about futsal, like being able to do like a little bit of futsal stuff in the wintertime.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it
if
was
that's suitable.
fairly,
And I don't know the logistics of, excuse me, the type of flooring and things like that. And obviously it wouldn't be cleats. You're just gonna be wearing sneakers or whatever, but
Yeah.
um,
well,
yeah, I mean, I think
futsal is actually
skills and whatever.
easier because the ball doesn't bounce as much and it's much harder to get it off
Yeah,
the
it's
air.
heavier, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have, if anyone, Chris, if you hear that they would like to put a program like that together, Paul has been very open and easy to work with. If they want to get in touch, I'll be happy to do the same thing that I did.
Yeah,
for
I'll
Patrick.
probably see him on Sunday at soccer, so I'll make mention of that again.
Okay, and who is that?
Mike Calls, who had initially asked about it.
Okay, do I know him? Because I was there.
Beard, kind of darkish gray, black hair, beard,
Oh, and he's
good
tall.
soccer player, fairly tall. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, good soccer player, like he can make
Yeah.
a goal with his ankle from a.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and that's how I ran the soccer program during COVID. How I ended up on the park commission. That's how I
Right.
ran it. I mean, I ran it through parks, and we ran 2 soccer leagues during COVID.
Yeah.
Just age specific soccer programs, and then it's kind of where how we orchestrate that through my rec, and everyone registered, and so we just have to
Yeah.
set up whatever the price needs to be, because when you're indoors, then you're gonna hit the custodial sort of piece of that, with the restrooms and things like that. So
Yeah.
we just have to make sure we have that covered, but facilities will take care of that with us, and we'll set the right price.
Yeah, it's it's TCP is it's kind of it's interesting because I think some of those things that are happening there are under the town, but most of the activities are school related. That's why they're the ones that control the schedule. In terms of price, I don't think of the activities that are happening there, the town hasn't really set up like a very heavy fee for participants, for different things that happen there. Like,
Yeah.
so Heather's been really open. My thought is, my suggestion with Paul would be about $40 per participant, which is more than what we charge Little League, but it will help us cover some of the extra cost. Not a lot of money, but I do think because of the time that it's going to be, Karen's going to join us. Because of the time that the events are going to be happening there, the custodians are already going to be there because they are there at night, because the school activities happen during the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So
I didn't know if at TCP, if they're in there all night at TCP as well, or how that would be my only question, just to make sure that we're covering that, and I think that's all it should be, is just making sure we're covering whatever cost that is.
Yeah.
Because outside of, I mean, parks and schools, we're not really charging each other for use of facilities or use of land, but when the discussion is, I know if we're indoors, there's an additional cost that goes along with that kind of deal. So we just need to account for whatever that cost would be, to make sure that that's
visible,
covered.
yeah.
And
I'm coming in late to this, Anna, but are they going to charge for use of TC Passios?
I have not been told anything. No,
Yeah,
because
I
we
don't
would be
think-
paying, the town, because.
Right, I don't think they're charging us. TC Passios is a different entity than, even though it's sort of run by the schools or managed by the schools, it's a different entity than the school buildings are. So I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna charge us.
oh, that's even all the better. And if they're not, then I mean, I would run it at a minimal cost. If there's no cost associated with, and Paul's volunteering his time, I'd run it at a minimal,
Yeah.
minimal cost, and let them do something. Maybe we can do something fun with the kids for the last week they're there or something, and get them, I don't know, like do something fun for the kids the last night they're there, last evening they're there, snacks or
Yeah.
whatever kind of deal, and make it enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. So I My goal is to meet with Patrick and Paul next week. And maybe I'll even tap into you, Chris, if you're
Sure.
available in that meeting. Because the main concern I would have is just the gym not being damaged. But I have given that concern, I told Patrick about that concern, and he's willing to, work with us on that. So by end of next week, we should have that worked out. But I'll let you know
Yeah,
when
I think it just
he's-
have to be a foot skills kind of deal like that. I think there's indoor soccer programs around. I know there was a push, Lysa just pushed out a message regarding, indoor leagues, soccer leagues for the wintertime between, Millworks and Teamworks and, the Marlboro facility and the Dome in New Hampshire. There's a variety of facilities around for games that are suitable for games. But, like I said, I think Lysa's done some indoor clinics before in,
Right.
Preseason stuff, wintertime, with foot skills and so forth, kind of tight around cones and, some light passing back and forth, things like that, that would make sure that prevents any sort of damage and so forth to the building.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you know when the meeting is, Chris, because I
Okay.
think you would be more well-versed on that.
Yeah, send me a text,
Um,
sure.
Okay, that's great. And that's all that I had for updates for Chair. Any other comments? No?
No, the only
Okay.
other update that I would have would be I did send a copy of the survey out.
Yeah,
to
that's
everyone who
I
wants
added
to-
that as a meeting item, so we'll
Is it
come
a
up to
meeting
that.
item? I didn't
Yeah.
see it.
I submitted a revised meeting agenda,
Oh, got it. Okay.
so.
I pulled the one out of the folder. Never mind. Okay. Moving
um,
on. Next.
Moving on, okay, we'll get to that. Okay, so I
Hi,
did,
Karen.
Hi.
let's talk grants. So I'm going to, I'll go through my notes and I'll tell you guys what I have. And I'll tell you guys what I have and what I think, what other steps I think we need to take, and then, there'll be a discussion about what should we do next. So I got all the information together that I have heard about possible funds available. There was the USDA loan and grant that Dave had talked about it for bathrooms. There was a PARC, PARC. These are fund. These are grants. They usually grants have a matching percentage. That's through the state. There was the land and water conservation grants that program and grants that also is through the state. I think those we can probably take some advantage of some of those things. There was the Mass Trail grant that is also available. And for all of this that I'm talking about, I did look through the overall requirements, and I do believe that Marshall Park would qualify for them. That is a institution that is a private institution that offers grants for dog park. We could also, apply for that. I did hear back from the what is it called? Municipal Americans with Disabilities Act Improvement Grants. That's also an option. And the last one is the AARP Community Challenge Grants. So my thought on all this is that I wanted to put them into a spreadsheet and kind of take high-level notes about them, such as when applications usually open, what is the maximum, what's the maximum grant that they grant usually, in the timeline, and if there are matching grants, do we need to go to town meeting for this? What other information we have? So then it's all in one page and we can kind of create an action plan for it. I did ask Heather if she had any concerns, anything that she could tell us about it. She did say that some grants have more legwork than others. Some will require town meeting approval because it means, like the USDA one is actually a loan. So I think the first thing is I need to put all this in a spreadsheet and for us to look. But overall, if we were to get matching, the maximum matching for all of these, I think we could be talking about an extra $700,000 that we could on these batches alone. So if we get ARPA funds, my initial thought is those could be the matching grants, and we wouldn't need to necessarily wait to go to town meeting. We could use the ARPA funds to be the matching funds for what these grants would be. So right away, we could kind of, have 1.5 amounts available if that works. So that's why I think we need to be really ready. Like everyone in this commission, I believe, has talked about exploring grants. And I know the town will help us with what they can, but I do believe we'll probably be doing some legwork. And if we are awarded any ARPA funds, that would make it easier for us, because I think right away we wouldn't need to wait for that step of the town meeting. Another interesting thing that I read about these grants is, for example, the park grant along with the Land and Water Conservation Funds, they're both administrated by the state, and they say you can't apply for the same project for both, because even though one comes from federal funds, but what you can do is request funds for different parts of the project. So for example, we could request $400,000 for pavilion through the park grant, and we could ask for 200 grand for the playground. So as long as we don't submit in a request as Marshall Park, we could, it's not a double dip, but we could use these grants for specific parts of the project. And that actually answers one of the needs for us to get the engineering done right away, is because once that's awarded, we have to start planning, executing that. And most of these grants, some of these grants do offer engineering costs, but not all of them. So you got to have the engineering ready in order to request the money. That's kind of like how you prove that you have a project ready to go. And once that's done, you can then execute. So getting that engineering funding through town meeting, which is our first task, it's kind of going to be, it's going to really help us. There are a couple, I think the USDA grant and loans, that's constantly open. The dog park is one that's open. The RARP opens in January. And I think the state ones, I think we'll probably be looking at the next fiscal year. It will probably be like late spring into summer. And there were the land and grant funds. Another interesting thing, it has to do a lot of times with that one has to do with climate change, and they have used a urban heat guide. And Lunenburg, it's for some reason they actually have detected that Lunenburg is either in category 3 or 4. Half of Lunenburg is in 4, half is in 3. 4 means we have had a more significant change in temperature, in average of temperatures, but it's half the town is that done that way. But it means we are in the hot zone. The park grant is usually designated for projects for towns that are over 32,000 residents. However, if you have a project that it offers parking of 100 or more parking space, you then qualify for the $400,000.
So just to make sure you're explaining it right, just to clarify that, Anna. So it's 35,000 or more residents. And there's two pieces on the park that we could actually qualify for. The bigger amount is up to $400,000. And because we would have parking of over 100 spots, I believe we would be eligible for
Yep.
that. But there is another one that we could qualify for. It's a max grant of $100,000. And it's called the Small Town Project. And that's with towns with less than $35,000. I'm sorry, 35,000 residents. Excuse me, trying to eat dinner at the same time I'm talking isn't good. So there could possibly be, we could do either one of them if somebody from, the grant place said, no, even though you have 100,000, you're still not eligible because of this, we could, 100 car parking, my brain's elsewhere. We could apply for the small town one, but.
Yeah.
So did you say, have you already started a spreadsheet with like all the grand details, the big picture details on this?
I haven't, I didn't
Okay.
have time and I'm also a
Okay.
little bit under the weather, so
Okay.
I've been working half
So
of
I
my
think
speed.
that I can try to pick away at some of these. The deadline stuff is what I think is going to be super important for us, because I know that I think that the deadline to apply for the park grant is sometime in April. And last year, I feel like I didn't even start thinking about it until April. So it may be something that we want to,
Right.
think about sooner than later. And I think, Anna, you may not know because you weren't on it at the time. Do you remember who applied for this grant for open space? Was it Brandon Kibbe that did the legwork on filling out the application? Because
I
for that
wasn't
Saliba
part.
property, we got $100,000 for the Saliba property.
I was not part of that.
Okay. All right, so just, I can start picking away on this to see if we can get some of the higher end stuff on there so we can be aware of dates.
The park
Yeah.
grant form that's in our folder is for FY '23, and the application deadline was this past July.
Right.
So I
Yep.
would assume then the application deadline for FY '24 would be similar, mid-July 2023.
Right, so it's interesting because like I'm on their page right now and they did a workshop back in May on, how to grant workshop. That may be something that we can look into, but I literally thought the deadline was April. Maybe it opens in April and closes in May. I don't know. But it would be
Yeah.
good to sort of be on top of some of this stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's the next thing is to do the spreadsheet. Then I had dreamt that I was gonna have the energy to do it, but I have to say I ended up sleeping most afternoon. So that's the first part. The second thing is regarding this is we do need to have it, which is going to be another agenda item, is for the special town meeting. One of the reasons to get the funding for engineering right away is so that we can start processing this. So having that information for town meeting, I think will be important. And the last piece is, once we have that spreadsheet, I do want to walk through with Heather, because anything that we do, I don't know if we can officially sign up for things, but I think having her support and her being on the end about what we're trying to do, especially with regard to financial matters, I think it's important. So, so any other thoughts, questions? What should we do next? I mean, it sounds like the spreadsheets is the next thing.
So I personally, I think that where we are, I think this is a great start to have, to be talking about this. I think it would be beneficial if we started looking at these, and I can't imagine not applying for the park grant. And if that's what the general consensus is in the next month or two, even though it wouldn't be due until the middle of July, I think it's something that we should start sort of picking away at, so that if we are the group that actually has to put it together and write the request, that it has time to be looked over by us as a commission, as well as anybody on the town side before it gets submitted to the state. So I guess I'm just asking to make sure we leave a plenty of time to do this stuff and start it earlier than later.
Looks like there's steps to follow too, because like it says the eligible applicants are for open space and recreation plans that are approved or currently under review by DCS. So that we would have to submit our plan for review to DCS as well before we could apply to the grant.
DCS?
That's what it says in here for the park grant. That's what it lists as an eligible applicant. So this bid is open to municipalities that have open space and recreation plans that are approved or currently under review by DCS.
Oh,
Is that-
yes,
Yeah,
we do have that.
Division of
also-
Conservation Service. Are we, is that automatic? Like, that's,
No.
That's, all right.
when, Anna, do you know when ours is up? We-
Yeah, 2026. So it
Yeah,
was
so
approved
our open
Ours is
space
up to date.
plan was submitted,
2019.
yep, and it was approved by the state in 2019, so that's already on, that's
So
already
the
up.
part, so Marshall Park itself doesn't need to be, like the project for Marshall Park doesn't need to be submitted to them for,
No, and it,
okay.
the open space, probably, the open space plan most likely mentions Marshall Park in it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And if it does, you
Okay.
get extra points for it. Like they do have, and when I say extra points, I really mean extra points because they do have a
Mhm.
scoring thing. And I will not get that word out. The improvement of Marshall Park is listed on our open space, 200 page long open space, whatever thing.
Yeah, that was a lot of work, for anybody wondering.
Yeah. Okay, so I can take on putting the spreadsheet together. I can probably do it by next week. Because I actually have read most of those things. That's how I knew. There were some others that didn't really apply. And some of these I already have communicated with them. The American for the one for the ADA, I have to say is one that I'll have to talk with Heather. Because it's interesting because from what I've read and the information I've received today, they want the town, the community to have a process for ADA altogether. So even though you're doing one project and you might be requesting money for one piece, they wanted the town to have a whole process for becoming ADA friendly, if you will. So I'm not sure if we are, it might be just be like, we gotta have a process for grievances. We gotta have a person who's the kind of, responsible for that, and usually a facility person. So I'm gonna have to talk with Heather if that's something that we want. Now, for example, the one thought on that would be the playground, but the walk is also, the paths that we are doing is 4 feet wide with, with the, I think a 4-degree or 8-degree, no more slope. So there are a lot of things that would be,
Yeah, some are 8
ADA?
feet, some are 4 feet. It's there's a lot of,
well, the
Yes,
main
it's-
one, I think it's, yeah. So I think that one I need to explore more about what is the likelihood of us getting what kind of funding for them? Because many different parts of this park will be meeting ADA requirements. I think that's something we want to, despite of them giving us money or not. But I don't know how much of a burden it would be for the town to take that on. Because it seems to be like the whole town will need to go through the process of become ADA friendly. Does that
We
make
do
sense?
have we do have an ADA commission, don't we, in town?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that we do.
guess-
I think that we do. We
do?
may, you don't have to do all the legwork, Anna. I want, how we have that spreadsheet that is sort of the running one that Paul uses.
Mhm.
I wonder if we should just put something up like that for grants, and then like, if you go on and fill it out, then, I would check it and then, oh, she already did this one and let me do the next one.
Okay, yeah,
And
we do
fill
have an
out-
ADA committee, you're right.
I do
we can-
try
I
to
can-
do it.
Yeah, and Todd Dwyer is there, our building commissioner, Barbara Reynolds, Lori and Tessier. Is that the person? The parent? I don't know.
Who?
You had mentioned there was a parent that had reached out to us.
No, Emily Wright. I'm not Emily Wright. Oh my gosh, Emily Young.
Okay, okay, all right, so they do have, okay, that's, oh, it looks like we have some, so anyway, so this is good. So I'll put the information on the spreadsheet. And because I have read a lot of this information. And what I'll do, I'll add the information and the steps associated with that we'll need to do next. And then maybe we can review it and start dividing and conquering. Especially, I think a lot of the work is going to be once we start applying for those grants, more than the coordination in the beginning. I think it's gonna be easy. Okay. Thank you, Karen. Chris, are you good with everything? Do you have any questions? Because I feel like I talked a lot. I mean, I did read a lot of these things. Sorry.
No, I'm good, right? I'm good right now. I think that's great. That's great research. Knowing what's there, and I think it's just matter putting it all on an Excel sheet so we know dates and other steps particular steps that are required to qualify, to make sure we're meeting those sorts of deals so that we're not doing work where we don't qualify.
Right.
Just making sure we're meeting the pre-qualification steps there, I guess. Be good.
Okay. Pat, are you good? Do you have any thoughts, questions, concerns?
I know, I like the spreadsheet idea, then, so then I have something, for me personally, then I can go on it and look and actually research and do some stuff on it too, so, yeah, I'd really like to use a spreadsheet so I can get more familiar with the, I can't even remember the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
The
No, that's
grants.
great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd
That's
just
great.
like to get more familiar with it, so I know what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah. There was a lot of reading this past week, so, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'll get that going. And we should have, I don't think there's anything that's going to be opening between now and our next meeting, so we should be good. All right. Okay, one thing I did forget about, well, we can go to the next. All right. All right, so Park and Recreation, next item on the agenda, if we are all set with this.
Yep.
Okay, is Park and Recreation Facilities discussion. So I did add to our folder, the Building Reuse Committee, they submitted they had a presentation last week. And or a couple weeks ago, they submitted a hybrid. They had come up with 3 scenarios, and then they created a hybrid, most likely scenario, I think was the idea of the hybrid. And they talked about a lot of different uses for different parts of property, different buildings. And the reason I added this to our agenda were for 2 reasons. The first one is of all the needs that they have talked about it, they did talk about creating a community room, the town hall possibly becoming a community space, which then, can be used for parks and recreation. But there was never a talk about, does park and recreation need, should have a space designated for us. And I think as we look to bring in the rec director and hopefully get programming running, doing different things, I think we will need a space, designated space for us. And the other thought on that is also, nobody seems to want the Brooks House. And I wanted to ask if this commission, if this is something we can envision, maybe using for parks and recreation. So this meeting, this item is in the agenda for one. Do we need to raise our hand and say, hey, we need to be thinking about parks and recreation as we move forward as well, and two, the Brooks House? And then that's open for discussion. Anyone?
So I obviously don't know Chris and Pat's opinion on this. I'm not a big fan of the Brooks House. I think it's, yes, if it's all that, if we don't have any other option, then yes, I would rather see a space at whatever they're gonna do at TC Passios, closer to the gym area, closer to the kitchen area, with even just an office in a larger, meeting type space where some programming that doesn't need gym space could be held. I envision some of our programming being very tied to a gymnasium if we had that dedicated availability of a space like that. And it would be nice to have everything together versus the gym's over at TC Passios, but the rec office is over at the Brooks House, and the small community rooms that we're using for other programming are at the Brooks House. I think I'd rather see it at TC Passios, and not that you're asking for another building to be thrown into the mix there, but I think another more logical spot for us to be would be the beach house, if we could ever get something, rehab down there, with some space for, a small space for programming or, whatever. I would rather see us condensed more than spreading out to another location. That's my thought.
Okay,
Beach house is the first thing that I thought of as far as a space. If we were talking about a park space, like that would be the first thing that I thought of. I have a whole, my thought process on building reuse and all that is, we need fields. So TCP needs to be knocked down. Or Turkey Hill needs to be knocked down, and TCP becomes the new elementary school. I mean, it's not a parks thing. It's not a park commission
Right.
thing. This is a bigger issue, and administrative offices can go in a new school or a renovated school for Turkey Hill. But I mean, from a park commission standpoint, the more fields we can have in this town, the better off I think programming will be. I think it allows whoever controls the space is whoever controls the space. If it exists, we'll figure out a way for it to be shared and utilized and help create programs for parks and rec, for schools, for community use. But that's where it needs to be. As far as the Brooks House goes, I like reading this kind of list. I'm certainly not a fan of selling the Brooks House. I don't know what you would put on that corner. If administrative offices couldn't go into a school building for whatever reason, then that would be where I would choose to put administrative offices for the school. And I understand the building's in some rough shape right now, so it could be you demo it and there's a new building there, a new administrative building, for school related administrative offices or whatever kind of deal. But I certainly wouldn't put anything else there. But from just given my personal opinion of what needs to happen with TCP, the fact that we need more fields somewhere, and we're going to need a new elementary school or a renovated elementary school. I wouldn't want to go forward and say we want space in TCP, because I think I don't want to speak towards keeping that building and putting more stuff in there when I think that land is more useful to cater to kids being outdoors and in a renovated school or a new school or whatever for the elementary school. So
So Chris, so, okay, I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
My first question is, so I guess I'm gonna scale back my question in terms of like, I did bring Brooks House, but do we want kind of raise our hands and say to the town of Lunenburg, generally speaking, like, hey, we need to be thinking about indoor parks and recreation space. Because that aside from broadly speaking about using the town hall as a community space or even TCP as a community space, that's a very broad term. It doesn't really talk about parks and recreation. That's who we are. That could be, I support all community. I'll for anything community related, and especially that's public and open to everyone. That's what I support. But do we want to say, hey, we should be thinking about a space for parks and recreation indoor, not necessarily attached to a building, but is that something we want to bring to their attention?
Well, I think that, I'm not, obviously not Chris, and.
No, you're not.
I'm
my voice
stepping up.
changed.
I-
My
You
voice
got
changed.
you got more hair than he does.
I do.
I'll
I
just move
think,
my lips and it'll sound like.
so if I'm understanding things correctly, hold on, I'm in the wrong set of meeting minutes, the wrong thing on the drive. Let me just get my drive open. If I'm understanding it correctly, they meaning the select board, are looking to move forward with a hybrid plan, If so, while I agree with Chris, and I'm not sure I'd be the first one in line to say we need indoor space. We need a gym, don't rip down TCP. I'm not sure I'd be first in line for that. If that's what they're choosing to do, and this is the idea that they're moving forward with, I think that to say to them, you're looking to keep the gym, it would make sense for the Parks and Rec to have space within that building. And it doesn't have to be a big piece of space. It can be, one room. I think that makes some logistical sense. And if Parks and Rec ends up over at Town Hall, if that's the way it goes, then so be it. But I don't think we should necessarily be requesting. I guess I'm not 100% sure we need to be requesting something.
So the reason I think we should kind of bring it up and say, hey, we exist, a space for us should be in part of the plans, is because everyone who has been on their list are people that have done that, right? And now, I support all of these uses, but Boys and Girls have mentioned, the food pantry have mentioned that, they need space. The PAC has said they need space, like everyone needs space. And we have not said, hey, we need space. And if we don't say it, they won't know. So for example,
we have like that. This is a thing though, Anna, is that we're a commission within the town. Obviously, us commissioners are elected, so therefore the town doesn't oversee us. But they're the ones that pay for our rec director's salary. It comes from the town side. So that should have been an automatic given. Like that should have been, where are we going to put Parks and Rec? And I'm trying to remember, there had been a meeting that I had gone to of the building reuse design, making a plug for Park and Rec when they were originally moving forward with that massive plan of the TCP overhaul. I don't, they know we're here. I don't know how to, I'm just hesitant to be saying to them, we want space, because honestly, I think as a group, we tend to play nice in the sandbox with others. We want people using our property. We want them to enjoy themselves, and we want to work with other groups. To me, if we don't have a dedicated gym space, we have 3 other gyms in town from the schools that everybody should be playing nice together. So I don't know. I'm just hesitant to say that we absolutely have to have dedicated space on our own, because I think that although it would be nice, it's more of a want than a need. I think we need to have a recreation director space that's easily accessible by the public. I think we need to have areas to run our programming, but I don't necessarily think we need to have 100% dedicated spots of all of our own. And when we talk about Brooks House, I feel like we're saying this would be the Parks and Rec only building. And I guess I'm not 100% on board with that.
We have a part-time, well, we don't yet, but I mean,
So,
hopefully soon again, we'll have a part-time rec director. So I don't know that we necessarily need dedicated space. I guess I'd kind of go along the lines of what Karen is saying a little bit there, where like,
I
guess if this is what they're
confused about
doing-
what Karen said. I'm confused about what Karen said. Because Karen said, she said, you started by saying, well, there's wants and needs, and then you listed 3 needs with space as regards to space. Like, think independently of the name of the building. I did bring up Brooks House because it's a building that
Right.
nobody seems to have been. So I'm thinking, what can we get? But you did start by saying there are wants, but there's no needs. And then you listed needs. So,
Well, no, I said wants are different than needs. I
Right.
said, I think we need, in order to run a successful Parks and Rec program, we need space. It doesn't matter where that space is, though. It could be a classroom. It could be a community room at Town Hall, if that's what that building becomes. It could be someplace somewhere else. It could be the gym at TC Passios, but we could also use the gym at the primary school if that was an option. If everybody could figure out how to play nicely together so that we could cross utilize what we have. That's the need that I think we have. I think that the want, everybody has a want. And I think that the want that I don't think we necessarily need to do is to be asking for completely dedicated space, a large area that's all parks. I wouldn't want to go even request a huge space at TC Passios. I would think that, if TC Passios, if it goes through with the hybrid plan, to say to them, we need 600 square feet, 500 square feet, 200 square feet, whatever. That's a lot different than saying to them, we need to have, there's a bear outside my window, sorry.
excuse me.
Oh, Jesus. That we need to have, an entire floor or entire building. I guess that's what I'm saying. The difference between needs and wants are,
so what, okay, so I'm bringing this up because I think, and I'm glad, it sounds like you have expressed to them in the beginning of the process that Parks and Recreation be considered. So my question is, what is that we would like to reiterate to them now is when you're thinking about the space, think about Parks and Recreation having a dedicated space or the space that they can use. Now, one thing I'll put a pause on what you're saying is like everyone playing nice on the sandbox. At the end of the day, someone's going to control that sandbox. And, I know we play nice on the sandbox, so I'd rather be the one controlling that. So if anyone asked me, hey, who should control the TCP gym and own the scheduling, I'm going to say, I think Parks should, because we're really nice.
I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you on
hold
that.
So I think, like you said, you have iterated to them once that Parks and Recreation should be thought about it on this process. So I think we should reiterate, because they have a lot of meetings and they probably forget, And what is that we're talking with them and saying that would be an ideal scenario, I guess?
I think we should be going to them and saying, we are just a reminder that we are still here. We are still trying to run the Parks Commission wants to see a successful Parks and Recreation program, that our programming, the needs of that programming are to have flexibility of spaces. That, I think the only need / definitely have to have is office space for a rec director, hopefully one that's more accessible to the public, that people would just walk by. And sort of approach it that way. If they were saying in here that they were ripping down the gym, like if their hybrid plan said that they were going to get rid of the gym, then I would probably we may be approaching it somewhat differently, because I think that even if the gym stays there, renovate the kitchen and the gym stays there, even if it falls under Parks and Recreation, like if they're the ones facilitating the usage of it, for lack of a better word,
That's a good way to put
it
it.
doesn't necessarily have to be that wouldn't necessarily be a dedicated park space. It's like what we have going on right now. The school facilitates the usage of the TC Paseo gym, I believe. But it's not their space. It's not their dedicated space. They're just the ones that are holding the master calendar for use of that. So if the senior center wants to use it, instead of the request going into the school, maybe it eventually changes over to Parks and Rec, because that does make more sense, because we can put our programming in and fill the gaps. But, I'm not even looking at that as 100% dedicated park space. But I think saying to, building reuse, don't forget the parks is still here, that in order to run a successful programming, we need a variety of flexible spaces, including, indoor gym space, indoor classroom space, and an office. And wherever we fall into that, we fall into it.
Right.
For
Okay.
lack of a better description, and I don't want to, this is probably going to muddy the waters a little bit, but, when we think of the extended day program, which is obviously an extension of the school program, they have classrooms that they use over at the TC Paseos building, and they're set up for their classrooms. And that's also what they use for offices. But those programs could easily go back to into the school, and they could be run in the school. And I guess I sort of look at parks in that same way. Like, we can be flexible in the space that we use, as long as we have a space to use. And that's what I think that the extended day program sort of is, people are starting to see that they can be flexible in the facilities they use, as long as they have a facility to use, or classroom space or cafeteria space. And I sort of see us similar to that, and that as long as we have access to places, we can run a program. But it's making sure that those places are still there and parks is put in. So instead of them coming forward and saying, oh yeah, the kitchen's going to be used by the Lions Club for the food pantry, it really should be reminding them that we're here, reminding them that, the kitchen could be used by the Parks Commission for programming. So maybe they could change their dialogue from, the kitchen's going to be kept here for use for the food pantry. It would be, the kitchen will be left here and renovated for the use by, Parks and Rec and the Lions Club for their food pantry, and any other outside organization that
Right.
from the community. I don't know.
And that's the part that when I was listening to it, it struck me a little bit was, there were all these very defined uses to spaces that I think it should be more flexible,
Mhm.
and open. And in all honest, I don't think we have an organization in town who is ready to be the facilitator. And I'm going to use the facilitator because I do like that word, Karen, and the school's job is not to be the facilitator of community space. And facilities could, but facilities, if you're thinking of the high level of all, they are they have a job to maintain facilities, but to really be thinking holistically about, community space and uses, Parks and Recreation is the only entity that is dedicated to all. And then their hybrid concept too, for the town hall, which it kind of struck me a little bit. Their suggestion was to just be a meeting house. And then the first floor be 3 meeting rooms. And the second floor, remove the town manager and HR offices to increase the space of the floor of the meeting room. And in another scenario that they had, the town hall was going to be a community building. So I don't understand how they downgraded that use, because to be just a meeting house, it's mostly used in the evening. Now, if you're gonna have a building, why not make it a building that can be used all day long, right? It can be used by the senior center for offering classes. It can be used by the teen center.
Assume
So
those
they
meeting
down-
rooms could be used in that way though, right? I mean, it's like a meeting room, nothing dictates that a meeting room is only open at night. I mean, like if it's
Well,
there,
but-
it's gonna be usable space,
Yes,
to
but they
hold a
did
meeting,
have
and it's
the
a larger
language, Chris.
space. Yeah,
But Chris, they did have the language community building first, and then they downgraded that language to meeting house. And I did feel like there was a change on that. And one of the person who was the APDC representative on that meeting did say that it was an interesting point. I forgot his name. He said, I do think the town hall should be a community building versus just a meeting building, because buildings are going to be preserved if they have uses. As soon as you remove uses, and if this is just a meeting room, you're just leaving this as an empty space for most of it. But if you make this an active space, it's going to have a life of their own and have a use for the community. In Westford, which I'm a little bit familiar with, they actually have their community space is their former town hall, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. So anyway, so I did think that, Chris, they downgraded the language from community building to meeting house on purpose. So,
okay.
Okay, so I made some notes here. The first thing I would like to go to one of their meetings and speak. It doesn't have to be me, by the way. It can be any one of us. I would like us to be on the same page. That's why I like discussing these things in the meeting. And Karen, since she's been to one, she can go and call them out and say, remember when I was here?
I don't remember when it was and what my statement was. I can't remember. I'll have to go
Right.
back and look.
But I would like us to go back to them and say, hey, remember us? We are here. And my notes are, Parks and Recreation would like some flexible space to use on any of these buildings that we are talking about, and those uses should be considered. And I do think the town hall should be upgraded again to a community building. And that might be a space that the Parks and Recreation could be the facilitator of all these different organizations in town, just as, the gym and the kitchen. So,
I think we just have to be mindful, like we say, like we want to be the facilitators of this. And so the person that's facilitating that is a part-time person. Like we don't have a full-time rec director. So I think we just have to be mindful, and that's some of my reservations about saying we need dedicated space or we're going to be the facilitators of something, because the person's a part-time person. We don't know who that person is. We don't know how they're going to operate. We don't know how they're going to function. So I think before we get on that path, we need to understand that whoever this person will be, and
well, I mean,
go and
that's not how
kind of
usually-
oversee that.
Well,
Because it's that person's going to be the person that would oversee that facilitation. It's not us. Like it's not the park commission that's going to oversee that. It's going to be the rec director.
Well,
We're not scheduling people. That's not part of our task.
hold on.
It's not part of our job.
So you know, this person is part-time because right now, there has not been demonstrated a need to be full-time.
Right.
And.
I don't
and
agree with
if-
it. I mean, I've already voiced my
Right,
opinions on what
so-
the hours should be for this
Right, so
person
if
anyway.
we can demonstrate, and that's the conversation I have had with Heather and the previous rec director, he wanted to be full-time. That was the only thing he could talk about it. He wanted to be full-time, and I said, well, you gotta demonstrate that we have the use of your position as full-time. And having, you know, the space that we can run programs and do things is how one of the paths to doing that. So you put that a little bit in the chicken and egg situation. But I mean, I am going to, it doesn't have to be a parks position, but, okay, do we want to communicate anything with the park, with the reuse building?
I think we need to communicate again that we exist. And
Okay.
that, I mean, they should obviously be knowing this. We shouldn't, it's, the recreation again is a town employee, so it should be, I mean, their description
Okay,
alone
what-
should, but
so-
if it's not, I would be saying to them, hey, we're still here. We do need, you know, we do have needs for X, Y, and Z. I don't, I guess, support going forward with making different recommendations than what the hybrid concept is that that they seem to be leaning towards, but I think to be able to say to them, there's things in here that we can utilize, and, you know, there's a need for an office for, you know, this person that's more central and open to the public. I hope that the recreation director does not end up in the Ritter building, because I think it needs to be someplace that, you know, people doing recreational activities would be normally near. So that to me would mean they should be
Okay.
putting them in TC Passios.
All right, so Karen, since you were there the last time, do you want to maybe drop into one of the meetings into a public comment?
Sure thing.
Okay. Chris, you seem to be okay with Karen's word so far?
Yeah, you had you had questions you said for me, and Karen started to answer them.
Sorry.
I
You
know,
have- Did you have
yeah.
questions? If you have questions, I want to make sure
well,
I answer
you
them.
know, the
but-
other, it was about the uses and like not seeing. It was a two-part question. One was seeing the need for space for recreation indoor, not specific to a building, which I think that's what we just discussed. The other piece to it, Chris, is outside and getting kids outside and people outside. You know, I think our long-term goal would be Northfield Park for creating more fields.
In part, yes, but I mean, but I also recognize that Northfield is not as centrally located as TCP. You know, it's a little
Right.
more out of the, you know, it's just a little more out of the way. It's not convenient for kids to, it's not as convenient for kids to ride a bike to. It's not as convenient for you
Right.
know, parents driving through the center of town to drop a kid, go to a program, run an errand kind of thing. Like,
Right.
it's just, you know, there's that's highly that's it just I don't know. It's
No, I
not a park
agree.
commission frustration. It's just a town frustration. Like there's been a committee for the building reuse. There's been no subcommittee for building demolition. And they're like that, like it's there's a whole other thought process there of what could be done with that space. You know, and I you know, when I first came to town, it was the high school, and seeing how run down the high school was, and Turkey Hill was going that way. You know, like I walked in for basketball practice last night, and it was, you know, the ceiling panels walking into the gym are falling out of the ceiling. You know, like it's
Yeah.
like it's like we're heading in that direction, and that all needs to be addressed. And there's, you know, there's two buildings in the center of town that, you know, one's going to need to either be renovated or be replaced by the other one. And then there's, you know, I think then it opens up for field space and things like that, which would be more highly utilized year
Yeah.
round. So,
Okay.
but you're not there. But I'm in favor of not requesting specific dedicated space. You know, but simply highlighting that we're here, and if, you know, they're establishing a prioritization of how that space is scheduled, that we're, you know, considered, you know, highly for those spaces as being a priority for, you know, use of the gym space or classroom space and so forth. Given the hopefully the programs that we can run and so forth. I think having dedicated space that's ours and labeled ours and so forth. And then if we don't have a program going on in there kind of thing, I think it's just highlights something that doesn't need to be highlighted. You know, but I think just making sure that we're speaking up to be a priority for the use of those spaces
And
is
that's the goal.
important. So
Okay. All right. So Karen's gonna take on that. And that's great. Thank you, Karen. Sorry for
It's all right.
offering you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is special town meeting warrant discussion. So I'm assuming that the way I did watch a couple special town meetings in the past, 2018 and 19, because I think 2021 were kind of special cases because of COVID and how they went. And I'm assuming that Heather will ask us if we want to present why this article and why should the town vote for it. I did go to the select board meeting where they included they accept the inclusion of this article. And Heather is going to put the request to be of about $180,000. Within the conversations that Paul had with Catherine from WOLA, they are very comfortable with the number that a complete engineering phase for us to move forward will cost anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000. And Paul is comfortable with that number. She was able to elaborate to him what is there it's needed and what are the things that we would need to have bid ready documentation. He was comfortable with that, and they were almost talking same language, which is a little bit outside my skill level. And so Heather during the select board meeting did say there is about $180,000 available for funding at special town meeting, and that would be the article. And we have about $10,000 left from our previous request. And that would get us closer to $200,000, which is the most that we see this next phase cost. So we need to have a plan for presenting at special town meeting. The case for approving. This is going to be more generally a harder sell because we do need 2/3 of the vote. Any kind of funding at town meeting is 2/3 of the vote. Yes, I believe that is the case. So what are our thoughts and how would you like to approach that?
I think we need to verify with Heather who she's expecting to give the presentation on that warrant article. My guess it's gonna be us.
Yep,
What number
Yeah.
are we? Do you know what number it is?
4.
Okay. And then I would suggest two of us, you and either Chris or I or Pat, sort of throw together a brief spreadsheet so it can be put up or slideshow, just something that can be put up at town meeting on the board explaining sort of some of the high hanging details of it. And then if we need to break it down and however we present it, we can.
Okay.
I would expect it to generate some conversation.
Okay.
So, yeah,
When you say spec at meeting,
at special town meeting, I would expect
Okay.
some conversation.
I'm expecting people just hear us and fully support us.
I mean, that would be nice. I'm a little afraid that you're living a dream with that one, but
I like to dream. I'm a dreamer. Okay. Okay, I can take on whoever wants to double up with me. I'm happy to, these kind of things tend to be better with two people working on it. It is my goal to do what I did for when we presented to the select board to seek support from the community. And so I will do the same thing. I'm gonna ask people to show up and vote for it, just full disclosure. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I'm just trying to get people, involved on the process. The select board deferred supporting this article or not. And they said it was because the final number was not verified by the state yet. The town has a process for verifying free cash and cash available that the state has to certify. I did ask Heather, where did the bulk of this money come from? So in the past special town meetings, the money becomes available because something costs less, something costs more, or you receive more money from one thing or the other. She said that the bulk of this money is coming from tax revenue. What she didn't tell me, which I'm probably gonna ask, it might be an easier conversation than through an email, is if this is unexpected tax revenue, or if this is, which is my guess, is if you are all in our spring town meeting, the select board had requested $400,000 for their park. And part of that funding would have been for engineering costs. And the town only passed 250,000. And there was $150,000 left on that. So that, most of that is tax revenue that probably went back into the general fund and was recertified. So I think part of the narrative, anyway, it's not part of the narrative. I would be interested to know, to understand from the select board, if this is the money, if this $150,000 is available because the town chose to not spend on their engineering costs on their part, why they perhaps would not support this article. So I'm hoping they will support, because what we are asking the town is exactly what they asked the town in the spring. So that's my thought on that. But that's not part of the presentation. This was more tying into the select board deferred from taking a vote on this. But I do believe this is the money that the town chose to not use on their engineering cost. It's exactly the same use. So anyway. Okay, so who would like to work with me? Any takers?
Doesn't matter.
I'll take, if you, I'm happy to go through something with you, Anna.
Okay, all right. I can do the first draft, or do you want to do the first draft, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead. If you do the first round, I'll go back through it with you, or happy to
Okay.
kind of meet with you separately and just talk through it, or whatever's easiest.
Okay, I'll put the first draft and then we can take
Okay.
on.
Yeah,
on the,
I have four, right now I have 4 nights of practices until soccer's over. So
Okay, what is usually your availability would be to talk about it then?
my Wednesday nights are usually free
Okay,
because I don't do practice on Wednesdays because I know we usually meet on Wednesdays. So
okay,
I avoid Wednesdays at all costs.
okay,
So right now I'm soccer on Mondays and Thursdays and basketball on Tuesday and Friday.
okay. We lost Pat. Okay, all right, so I'll do that. All right. So Chris, I'll send it to you. If I send you something for you to redline and just comment,
Yeah.
what's your turnaround time for it? Just so I can plan it.
Later, I should be able to do it pretty quickly, like later at night.
Okay, so like within a 36-hour window.
Yeah, give me a couple days and I'll.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So any other comments or thoughts about the special town meeting warrant discussion? Okay. All right, Chris, the next item is you. Marshall Park Master Plan needs and desires related to the various engineering phases survey.
Did everyone get a chance to look at the
Yes.
did.
survey, or I can pull it?
Yeah,
I can
I gave
share it.
everybody, yeah, you
Let me
can share.
share. Make sure I get the right ones. This one. Screen share. That screen. Share. Is that there? 'Cause now I
Mhm.
don't
Yep.
s- I don't see what's sharing on my, it like disappeared on my screen, so I don't know what
Okay, yeah, you're sharing.
happened. Okay. And it's the survey?
Yep.
Okay. So I basically just went through, I kept a lot of the same questions we used in the first survey, just for some consistency.
Mhm.
You know, your resident of Lunenburg. I was struggling with the title of the survey, but I guess good enough. It's self-explanatory, I guess. And then just left it at the Park Commission is seeking additional community input regarding specific needs, desires, various phases of the Marshall Park Master Plan. Take a few minutes to complete the survey, the community survey below. We appreciate your time. Are you a resident of Lunenburg? I kept the age demographic. A simple question of, have you seen the preferred master plan? And is that still the right terminology, the preferred master plan? It is the preferred
Yeah.
word, right?
It's fine.
Okay. So have you seen the preferred master plan for Marshall Park and included the image of the overall plan? And then just capturing that yes or no if they've seen it before. I guess I should maybe say, have you seen it before now? Before taking the survey. And then explain that the master plan is broken down into individual phases and highlight an image of the various phases that are here as well. Simple text answer of thoughts on the overall plan. And did include a couple of notes for folks just that maybe aren't as familiar with the plan, to say that all existing memorials are accounted for in the new master plan, that the Little League Powell Field is not being touched, and then highlighting that below we're going to highlight each phase and ask for specific input on each phase down below. But if they have an overall thought on the whole plan, they can add that here. Phase 1, parking lot, tennis courts, pickleball, basketball, pavilion, playground. Tried to highlight what was in phase 1.
Mhm.
So we have parking for 94 vehicles with a lot wide enough for emergency vehicles. We have an ADA compliant walkway to the park. There's basketball court, there's pickleball courts, there's a pavilion, concession stand and restroom building, universally accessible playground. And then I did make a note, because it's on there right underneath the number 1, that the it's there. Where am I getting here? That the skate park is also in this area, but it's a separate project from the Marshall Park Master Plan. But it is in this particular, it falls within this particular phase's location. So then just answers there, the general answers, not really a drop down menu sort of deal. It's just add your comments in that section. Phase 2 is parking for 38 cars off Chestnut Street, upgrade and reorientation of the 90-foot baseball field and the softball field, and includes ADA compliant walkways. I don't think there was anything else in that within phase 2 that stands out. And then basically kept the same
Dog
question.
park? Is the dog park in there?
Dog park is in phase 3.
Oh, he's in phase 3. Okay.
I kept going over that because I kept thinking it was there and it's not.
I know.
I
Well, I
looked
think
at
it's
it
the
like half a
dugout
dozen
there.
times.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So I get the same question throughout is, do you have particular ideas, needs, or desires related to X phase of the master plan? Please list them below. And so they have a long answer sort of scenario there. Phase 3 is the dog park. It's also 4-foot wide walking path down to Marshall Pond. There's an overlook platform at the southern end of Marshall Pond. Same question, do you have particular ideas, needs, desires related to phase 3 of the master plan? And then phase 4 is the pocket park along Highland Street, an overlook platform on the northern end of Marshall Pond, and a small parking lot for a couple of cars. I don't have the question. I need to put the question. This is why we're doing this. Into phase 4. List them below. And then generic question of, are there any other ideas for use you would like to see at Marshall Park not listed above, which would cause you to use the park more frequently? Please describe those. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions regarding Marshall Park? Name and email optional so that we can follow up if they ask any questions and so forth. That's the survey.
I like it.
I try to include the images. I copy the images down to kind of highlight each phase.
Yeah.
Tried to break down what was in each phase. I don't think I left anything. I just ask everyone to kind of just read through it again, just make sure that I, didn't forget to include a particular feature of a phase. I think I covered everything.
Yeah.
But if everyone wants to take a read through it again and just make sure that I listed everything that's in.
Yeah, I
those
thought it
phases.
looked good.
Yeah, I thought it looked good too. No, that's good. I thought it looked good, and I think it serves the purpose of, like, as we engage into this next phase, this is the place to, here we are opening up again for discussion.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess I guess my only concern I think the surveys, I like the survey very much. I just don't want people to think that we're gonna go back and change this plan, our preferred plan.
That's what I was wondering, if it was if saying the preferred master plan is the right phrase, right? So I mean, have you seen should we say, have you seen the?
Yes, maybe just say select
Selected.
master plan. Can you scroll down again, Chris, when you're done? Keep going. Okay, good, just go pull it up in my own. So Seaver says, do you have any particular ideas, needs, or desires related to phase 1 of the master plan?
Yeah.
I guess we're just gonna, I know I like the way that's written. I guess we just need to be prepared for people who are going to tell us that they have no need for something.
Right, they
that's
don't want a
planned.
basketball court, or they,
Right,
they don't
or
have-
that,
yeah.
we need a triple the size dog park. When, again, we're not gonna go back and reinvent the process that we already did.
Right. So I wanted that we include something at the top up here. So Lunenburg, Lunenburg Park Commission has completed, so we can say something of, has completed the, so we could say, taking into.
I mean, it's not in the grand scheme, Chris, you probably don't need to really change the wording too much, because honestly, if people don't like it and they feel differently than what we put out there, they're going to tell us regardless of how we word the question.
Yeah, I just to highlight that we're not seeking, or I guess it's saying related to the engineering phases. Lunenburg Park Commission, taking into account community input, has selected an initial concept, right? Or has selected a concept, a master plan concept
Yeah.
for Marshall Park. We are seeking additional community input regarding specific needs, desires, related to the various phases highlighted below. There. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey. So we're just seeking input related to what's already there.
Yep.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and Joe, I mean, I think we all got, or did everybody get it? Or Karen, it's just you and me. Joe, like Joe Ruth sent some Phillies info. I think it just went to you and I, Karen. But he had sent towards the end of September, just kind of his
Which list?
recommended sort of, his recommendations. And he and I had talked about some of those
Yeah.
when I met with him before the last meeting. But he did send some information over to us and stuff. Infield mix.
No, that's great.
Does stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
I like the survey. Chris, do you want to take the lead on doing what you did last time, spreading
yeah,
around?
I'll push it out everywhere for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If you could, I don't know if you did this last time, but if you send it to Heather and ask her to post it to the Lunenburg Facebook,
To the town page.
to the town page, and also if she could add, oh, Karen, I think you can do it. You can add it to the parks page, right?
What?
You can add this to the town website park page.
Yeah, just that single page.
Yeah, like you
Yeah.
can add, like, take the survey.
Yeah, I can put it onto the single page of that parks page, but it's the one on the town side, not the MyRec page.
Yeah,
Well,
that's.
You
that's
can
what I'm
add it to
thinking.
MyRec too. You can actually push it out through the MyRec
Oh, okay,
platform as well.
okay, so,
I'll test
Karen,
it, make sure when I send the link, were you guys able to go in and put an answer in? Like, could you guys go in and answer?
I didn't,
Or
I
you-
think I
'cause
had,
I think I have you
I
guys.
haven't
as
tried.
editors. I think I
yeah,
have you guys as editors. I'll send it to Amy and see it, make sure it just works right with Amy, and then I'll send everybody an email that it's fine to push out. And I'll include the link so that everyone can just copy the link and send it.
Okay.
So I'll make sure she can go through it.
I did, while we're still on. and
so hold
recording.
on.
Yep.
So Chris will push, let Heather know, Karen will add to the parks page, and I'll add to my rack. And
Mhm.
I'll push it through the email through my rack. Okay, got it. All right. Okay. I think that's a good plan. Okay, Chris, whenever you have finalized, if you could send me the shareable link.
Or yeah, Amy will be
yeah.
home tomorrow night. I'll send her the link now. Or after the
Okay.
meeting and have her take a look at it. I'm sure she'll let me know by tomorrow.
Okay, any other comments on this topic? We're good? Okay, so other business, we are almost at the end of this, which is good. I don't have anything, so the next item is correspondence, announcements, and public and board comment.
So I just want to throw out there that while we were talking, I did send a message over to Michael Ray to ask about their next municipal design meeting. He said it's going to be the 7th of November. He said it should be a great meeting, and we welcome non-members to participate at any point in the discussion. And we've been on a PR blitz to get these concepts in front of the public for comment and feedback. So if anybody is listening or from this commission wants to attend, they're looking for community
What
members.
PR
to be
blitz
here.
have they been on?
I think it's just trying to get the word out of,
Right, but I haven't seen this anywhere until Hannah shared it with me.
can't, I've seen it, but I can't, I've seen it actually quite a few places, but,
I mean, I'm a social media guy. I haven't seen it shared anywhere.
oh, it was on there. I've seen it. I'll have to go back and refresh my memory, but I thought I saw it somewhere on Facebook. But I will, if I see anything, Chris, I'll let you know, but I didn't write that. That came straight from Michael Ray,
No,
so.
it's just a question,
Mhm.
like, I'm just curious as to what that social
Yeah.
media blitz was. 'Cause
So what does that mean for us? You going to,
What night is
Sure.
November 7th?
I'm gonna go November 7th.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We're good
Yep.
at this. We do
All right.
things. Okay. Any other public comment or public comment, board comment?
Just a general highlight homecoming weekend, good buzz
Yeah.
around town this weekend.
There's a lot of happening
Lots
around
going
town.
on. The weather's gonna be good. There's a whole wide array of activities. Middle school dance Friday night, homecoming parade on Saturday, the Lions Club running a barbecue at the Boys and Girls Club during the day. Football game in the afternoon, which actually is highlight for league. It could, if they win, they could be co-league champions. So there's something at stake at the football game. A dance Saturday night for the high school, Shrieks and Creeks at the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh,
Miles for Miles is Sunday morning. Come run. I'm managing the timing at the finish line, so come down and run. I'll give you a high five when you go by.
can you help me with my time? Can you
Um,
make it faster?
Can you just run for me?
Oh, you don't want that. I know it'd be faster than me, I think. And yeah, and then soccer on Sunday afternoon. So, but yeah,
try
lots going on this weekend. Great weekend to be in Lunenburg. There's a ton going on, and it'd be great to see a lot of people out.
The only thing that I have, it kind of goes a little bit with the next item, which is next meeting date. I don't know if you all had recalled, we had talked about acknowledging Genevieve Nass' work with parks. And the select board gave us the option to join them. I'm assuming, I'm gonna circle back with them, but the plan had been that they were going to reach out to her and make a plan with her, and November 1st is the date, so it's next Tuesday. I would like, my preference would be for us to be there in the official meeting, so we have a record that we parks did acknowledge her service. So I'd like that to be a posted meeting, but will only be posted if we can get 3 people there. I can be there.
I could be there.
You can be there. Chris, can you join us next Tuesday? You have stuff.
I cannot be there. I have
Okay.
skills and drills for basketball.
All right, Pat, do you think you can join us next Tuesday at the select board meeting? I don't,
Yeah, I think I can be able to be there. I just gotta
Okay.
work out some logistics with the wife.
okay, that's good. She's usually on your team, so
Yeah.
that's, okay. So I'll post a meeting and Dave had mentioned that he would like to join as well, so hopefully he'll be able to make it.
Can you post
um,
that meeting or do you need me to do it?
I can post that meeting because we don't need the Zoom link for it.
Nope.
It would just be a posted meeting. Okay. Actually, you can do it. You're good at this. Okay. So yeah, so Karen does the posting. So that's technically our next meeting. And then we've got to talk about our next meeting, which would be technically it would be Wednesday, November 16. It's the day after town meeting. How do people feel about that?
Do we need to meet before? Do
I
we need
don't
to meet
think-
before town meeting?
I don't think we do
to
because
review
we
do
are,
we need to do any further review of the warrant, our warrant discussion or anything?
well, we had one today, but we can meet.
Yeah, I didn't know if that's
Yeah.
further. Do we need to do any further sort of discussion of that, or? are we
I
good?
don't think we do, but if someone thinks that we do, we can do it. Karen?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't think we necessarily need to.
Okay,
Because Anna, I think you're gonna be the spokesperson anyway, the one that's gonna end up standing up front and no, we'll be around to answer questions, but I think you're probably going to be the go-to. And if you're helping to create the file anyway, but whatever we're presenting, I think we'd be good with just going for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, you started this, Karen, so technically we could say you. But if you need, you know, I've been called scary on it a few times. And I mean, I can give the select board a side look. I mean, if that, I mean, we just need to get support. Yeah, I don't think we need to have a meeting. Let's
No,
just
I
go
don't
back
either.
to that.
I did just put the survey link up on the parks page.
Okay, now you're showing off, okay? You're
Sorry.
already doing
Did
it.
did the select board say what time it was gonna be with Jen next week?
No, it was a quick exchange before our meeting started.
All right, do you wanna, since you've already been.
Oh,
in
just do a
contact-
7:10. Just
Well-
post it to 7:10. Their appointments usually starts at 7:10. I'll confirm and I'll get back to you.
Okay, yeah, let me know tomorrow, but I do have it ready to go, so,
I'll just add it to my list of things to do.
because we know you have nothing going on.
Well, I mean, I'm locked at home, so. Let's see. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so are we meeting on the 16th as our next regular meeting? Is that
I'm
yes?
available.
I'm available.
Okay, Chris, you said yes. Okay, so
It's Wednesday.
November 16th is our second meeting because our next one is going to be November 1st. And with that, November 16th is a good date for me. It's my anniversary. So there we go. I'll spend time with you guys.
Your husband can join us. as a
Yeah,
guest.
there you go. Okay, so that's all I have. No other, I already had public comments. I think we can call it. Calamity, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I have a
Second.
Second? Oh, I love you, Pat. All right. Without that, Chris, can I get a yay or a
Aye.
nay? Karen,
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
All right, and I for myself, and it was lovely talking to you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
We'll talk to you later.